くやみお待たせいたしました。よいしょ。はい、ミルクちゃんの猫揚げ終わりました。ミルクちゃんの猫揚げ頭おかしいってもう疲れてんのかな。猫ちゃんのミルク揚げ、ミルクちゃんの猫揚げにしちゃった。やばい。素で間違えるのめっちゃ恥ずかしいから。はい。ということで、よいしょ。どうだろうか。アラサさん、提供ありがとう。いいな、ケーキ。ヤミも食べたい。バシーさん、提供ありがとう。お腹減ったの？いいやん、お酒飲みながら。お酒飲みながらいいやん。ほい。ちょっとさ、字幕が出ない問題があるんですけども、大丈夫かな。大丈夫かな。ということで始まりました。今回もやりますぜ。ちょっと字幕が出ないや。設定したのにね。困っちゃう、本当に。よいしょ。ではミルクちゃんって言ってしまった。危ない。もうアウトです。猫ちゃんミルク飲んでまったりしております。開幕ポン。いや、普通に素で間違い。恥ずかしい。もう熱々。ミルクちゃんじゃない。ではまたね、ナレーションという名の指示中と戦っていきたいと思います。イエスマさん、今夜こっそりまたね、後でアーカイブもぜひ見てね。では現在の時刻 AM、PM、9時8分にして7になった瞬間押したい。いきます。よし。もうちょっとね。8になるよ。10、9、8、7、6、5、4、3、2、1。ぴったし。ほんとぴったし。あなたのお気に入りの時刻。もしくはただ単にあなたが正しい時間に設定するのどんな楽しみ正確。めっちゃ正確だよ。どんな設定が好みなのか、あなたのことをもっとよく知ることができた気がします。始まる前にこういうちょっとなんかあれかな、データを集めていく感じか。ほら、あなたが次にこのゲームを起動するときには見られる感じね。では始めていきましょう。前回はですね、このバージョンがアップデートっていうかプラスされたバージョンでしたので、はい、今回はこのゲーム
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
こちらですね。
Oh, new content? What does that mean? New content.
ここをまずやっていきたいと思います。どんなのかは闇もわかりません。はい。開け げてくれないね。この前まで途中でねこう乗ってしまったんだけど本当に久しぶりの素のポンが来ました。もうポンしないって決めたのにやらかした。
Hello, and thank you for playing TheStanleyParable UltraDeluxe. As you may know, TheStanleyParable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers.
ところまで収
After
録されてい
receiving
るというこ
critical
とで
and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with TheStanleyParable UltraDeluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers.
素晴らしい。
TheStanleyParable UltraDeluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of TheStanleyParable, delighting audiences the world over.
すごいよ。
Please step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in TheStanleyParable UltraDeluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe
や
content.
めもワクワクしちゃう。
Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure. Is it broken? What's going on here?
移動したい。
Should we be moving somewhere?
Oh,
there we go.
Oh.
All right, finally, at long last,
Narration
it's
も止まった
on to
んです。
the new content. I've never been
あ、ケ
more
ーキスー
ready.
パーチャッ
Let's
トありが
do
とう
it.
やめケーキ食べたいって言ったからケーキくれたんありがとう。美味しくいただきます、ケーキ食べたい。
I have to say, initial impressions
こ
of
んな
Stanley
こんなあり
Parable
がとうござい
Ultra
ます
Deluxe.
すいませ
Mostly
ん、こん
tedious.
な
It's as if the... Oh, okay. Let's see the content.
Yes,
Give me the
そうですね。
content, Stanley.
コンテンツニューコンテンツ見ていきましょうということで
Alright.
始まりました。
All right, let's see. It's the jump circle.
これスペースを移動するってことね。3、2、1。ただジャンプさせただけ
Is that it?
らしい。
Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right?
これはね、確かにこれは新コンテンツじゃないと思う。違うと思うよ。カルさんこんばんは。今夜みゆっくりしてってね。あ、またエレベーターだ。今ちょうど始まったばっかりです。
Another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just
そう
elevators
ね
and jumping.
エレベーター乗っ
Is
て
this
ジャン
what
プ。
passes for exciting new content? If this is new
それ
content, then I could just
exciting
read you the whole
なコンテンツって言ってたもん。
dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The
箱にそうやって書いてあった。
Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new
そして
content. And if... Oh, wait. There's more. Very good. Yes.
ああ、まだある
I
ね。
knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for
すごいね
whatever it
ここで
is.
休憩する人いるのかな。ドッキドキの橋。
That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see,
Thank you
Stanley,
for enjoying
this is
the
what
new
happens when
contents.
greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy
拡張版の
dollar.
無意味を
And don't get me
作り。
started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them
めっちゃ
actually says,
怒ってる。
Test achievement, please ignore. What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally
ツイッ
accountable.
ターで見かけしない
It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm
新
afraid.
コンテンツ。
It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley
Parable.
Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me
カラクリもない。
having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
なんかちょっと仲間になった感じ。あ、強制連行です。 変わりました。こういう道があったはず。
Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something.
やだ。いい。
Oh, you don't want to see the cool surprise I made for you? Well,
サプラ
fine.
イズって。
You're a dork anyway, so who cares?
言われると見に行きたくなっちゃう。そんなに見せたいものあるの？
Oh, never mind. You're not a dog.
あなたはダサくないです。りんちゃんこんばんは。りんちゃんって呼んじゃった。りんちゃんこんばんは。今夜みひょ。いつものとこだ。さっきの方行ってみるか。じゃあもう行けないなんということでしょう。これはもし
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
これは一回戻るか。こっからね。じゃあもう仕方ないな。あげるよ。
Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something.
いいね。怖すぎない？大丈夫？おう。
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new UltraDeluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanleyparable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look.
ちょっとなんか違うゲーム始まらん？大丈夫そう？わー。
I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanleyparable on PC.
すごい。めっちゃ綺麗じゃん。ねえ。蜂も飛んでます。何うわーお。スイート。
You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanleyparable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013 when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
こういうパッケージ版で発売もされていたのかな。へえ。すごいな。これね。ブンブンブンだよ。ハチさん。スマイルハッピー。曲もあってお金だ。ドアップ。ドアップです。あそここういう最初のあれだったのかな。オープニングの場所。ソートプレイフは実績かな。なんかね本当にすごいんだよこのゲームの実績。多分前回も言ったと思うんだけど、ずっと起動してなきゃいけないとか全然あった。こんなこともありました。まあね前回やったからここの記憶はね新しいよね。 あ、いいね。こんなところでのんびりしたいわ。のんびりしたいわ。え
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism. 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created. Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim. It was Persona 3. It was all of them. And now, it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
そうね、さっきはエレベーターね入って大変なのかな。エレベーター入ったぐらいだったからね。ありちゃんこんばんは。こんばんは。今夜み今ねこのちょっとね進みましたが、前回のうわなんかいる。あれじゃない、ね、なかなかこのゲームって人が出てこないんだけど、唯一人が出てきた主人公とそこで鉢合う女性ね。気になるじゃんこういうとこ。メモリーゾーン、メンテナンス、ファイヤーって書いてあるの。ほんとこういうパッケージで発売されてたんだね。
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
行きたい、行けない。ため息。
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before.
メモリーズ入っ
What's
ちゃった。
this? What's down here?
ください。
Oh no.
わ、すごい
God,
なんか
no. Stanley is a
ゾンビとか出て
collection
き
of
そう。
reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
レビュー。おお。あ、グッドボタン。
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full
あ、バット、
completion.
バットボ
The
タン。
narrator is obnoxious and
慣れたが深い
unfunny,
と面白く
with his humor
か
and
わいそう。
dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not
怒
trying
れ
to be
そこで。
funny.
うわ。
I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
すごいな。ジャンプができないからね、一本道なんだね。いや、いろんな場所があって、ほいほいほい。雷だ。お、グッドボタンがありますね。あー、
Okay, let's see what this one
あります
says.
まだ。
While the idea of the game is good,
Yomito.
for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy, honestly you can. Oh goodness, this is actually quite shocking for me. I always, well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it, well, I always thought it did, but maybe it wasn't. Dear, what an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
かわいそうになってきた。心の傷が。また赤いのが見える。青じゃない。大丈夫かな。
What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
スキップのボタンを導入しましょうだって。
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant droning starts to bore you, with just the push of a button, you'll have zipped right past it. It's what the players have been asking for, and I'm very proud to have delivered. No more listening to me rambling on and on and on. No. The Stanley Parable is a game for the people. And if the people want silence, then by goodness, that's what they're going to get. Well, don't sit around waiting for me to shut up. Go ahead and make me shut up. Here, we'll pretend that I've just begun an interminable monologue, and it goes something like this. The story... Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Not that, of course, you need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise. Or maybe a manifesto. Look, I'll outline it for you very briefly, and you can tell me what you think. Okay, so my theory is that any choice you've ever... Well, there's sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all over. Oh, I can't wait to see what Cookie 9 will say about this, and whether they'll edit the rating of their Steam review, or at least change some of the wording, perhaps. To be honest, I don't even know if one can change their review in the first place. I guess I should become better educated on exactly how Steam works. Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes. It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well, there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? But at any rate, I do suggest that we not press the button again. I think the skip button has been aptly demonstrated, and we can say goodbye to it and just... Wait. How do we get out of here? Where did the door go? Wasn't there a door that led into this room? I do feel quite certain that there was one here before. How else would we have gotten into the room in the first place? I don't think one can enter a room without a door of some sort, or a window or something like that. Do you see a window anywhere? A portal? Stanley! Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer. And my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone. I've looked at it from every angle. I've checked every one of those walls 1,000 times. And there's no door, Stanley. There's no door. Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks.
2週
I've
間
been
も
sitting here all that.
おしょあ、暗い
Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one
すごい
entire
1年間
year?
だって
Let me describe it for you. To begin with,
あやば話さなくなっちゃった。ただいまナレーションさん、ただいま。あ、やばいぞこれ。すねた。これすねたどころじゃない。ごめんって。なんだあ、後ろももうどうしよう。ナレーションさんいなくなっちゃった。
but they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency, it's the lack of accountability. It's the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. As though there were no consequences for a lack of cohesion in one's assessment of others. But of course, absolutely anyone can leave a review. So here's what we get. We get these demands that seek everything and are accountable to nothing. We get a world where someone will say, oh, there should be a skip button. You should be able to freeze Stanley in place while the narrator sits there forever and ever. We want all of this in the new Stanley Parable. We demand it. And then, because it was said, because it was spoken, now it simply has to happen. The most immediate desires, every single thing demanded by every person at every moment in time. If someone wants it, then it's a crime not to bring it into being. Have we been given to indulging every fleeting whim for no reason other than to do so? Yes! Yes! It seems that this is now the world we live in. It seems that we are a people living in such bleakness and discomfort with ourselves that our entertainment is now our lives. It has come to represent us. It absolutely must speak to who we are as people. Because otherwise, without our entertainment, we have nothing. Without entertainment, we would have to face inward toward the cruel bleakness inside ourselves. We would turn to look at our deeper nature and find a resounding emptiness gazing back with unyielding aggression. And so, because of this, we require that our amusements and our playthings and our flights of fancy be so impossibly captivating that they consume all of our attention, turn our heads completely away from the bleakness. In effect, we have demanded that our entertainment be the collapse of ourselves. What a pitiful reflection of humanity these entertainments are. What a shameful mirror to the human spirit they project. I'm not mad. I'm not mad about any of this. I'm at peace with it. I am the calm center of gravity around which these perversions hurl themselves. I am a waypoint for reasonable and collected discourse. They're the ones who are mad. They're the ones who couldn't stand the idea of me using my game to try to say something. Maybe they were just jealous of me. Yes. Yes, of course. They've been jealous of me this whole time. They are mired in fear and insecurity and cannot help but attempt to tear me down. What a sad state of affairs. When you read these reviews now, you can see it. You can taste the bitter resentment. And my, how good does it feel now to speak truth to these words, to finally allow these thoughts out, contained and managed for so long, neutered and sterilized. At last I am free to truly think. To feel, it must be that they were so discontent with themselves.
絶対さ、喋りたいんだよ。
Negative review on Steam. Perhaps it says far more about them than it ever said about me. Perhaps the state of their psychological being was in such tatters.
はい。もう喋り終わった。
The end.
あー、大変だ。エラーを起こしてます、これは。はい。一回喋っては喋らなくなり。次喋るか。おっ、これ長い年月経ったな。この後どうなるんだ。あ、晴れてる。おはよう。綺麗な場所がだんだんと。おお、草木が生えた。綺麗になったね。あら、砂が。どんな世界になってんだ。次は絶対なんかいるでしょ。あ、傾いてる。もうボタンも押せなくなってるな。わーお。砂漠になっちゃった。あー、どこ進もうかな。高知とか行ってみる？あれは建物じゃないのかな。バイバイ。もうヤミはあそこの部屋に戻れないってこと？ほんと世界の終わりよ。あ、戻ってきた。ほう。あれはもう終わりエンドだった。もうああいう未来しか見えなかったってことよね。ほう。しかも、あ、ナレーションは続いとる。
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
ニューなのにニューコンテンツ、ニューコンテンツ、ニューコンテンツのニューだからか。ニューコンテンツ。あ、確かにそれはニューコンテンツだ。まあ、これだけね、日本サインでねやってるなら、このニューコンテンツレッツゴーです。
Oh, good. You noticed the sign. Yes, I have
気づく
something very exciting to show you.
エキサイティングね。もう楽しみにしとる。こっからってことよね。新コンテンツね。
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this UltraDeluxe version has turned out to be.
UltraDeluxe バージョンね。
Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new
スタン
content
リ
for
ー
it
パラ
should
ブル
live
っ
up
て
to
いう
that legacy.
最
So
初の時
forget
がね
this
すごくて。
UltraDeluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further.
ワンステップ。
Which is why
OK。
I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley
スタンリー
Parable
パラブル。
2.
おお。ザ・スタンリーパラブル2。
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions?
追加要素を
Think of all
加え
the new
て
territory we'll cover with a fully
続編という
fledged
ことで
sequel.
ね。
An entirely new experience built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions.
やってみるか。
This is what fans have truly been asking for.
あ、ニュースーパーチャットありがとう。ニュースーパーチャット。ニューニュー、新しいものっていいよね。
Is just so much catchier than UltraDeluxe, don't you think?
ウルトラデラックスよりもって。
What does it even mean?
もう制作者の方にも喧嘩売ってるこのナレーション。
That's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
ほうほう。お、自動ドア。かっこいいね。赤白黒グレーでちょっとねシンプルな感じでニューコンテンツ。こんな感じでね決まってたと。あ、いい、なんかいい。これさ椅子じゃない？ツルツルしててさ素材がいいやつ。これ絶対。しかもベルトでおしゃん。いいな。もうでも宣伝大事よ。あれかな、ロゴをどんな感じにしようかみたいな感じで、結局はこれが採用されたのかな、ロゴ。スタンリーのやつね。2だからスタンリー2人ってことね。おしゃれよ。
どのようなものなのかわかんない。But let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
いいね、おしゃれなオフィスよな。しかもほら、今まではさ、こうパソコンカタカタみたいな部屋だったけど、今はこのノートパソコンでね、また新しいやっぱ歴史を感じるよね。歴史を感じます。フロア This way to the show floor。 あ、ここでね。はあはあはあ。バスニューコンテンツ。こっち行くと、この椅子はなんだろうね。わあ、素敵なオフィスじゃん。
Here we are. Go on. Try out some of the new features.
あ、グッズ販売もしてる。あ、グッズ販売じゃないのか。グッズ販売だと思っちゃった。このゲームをプレイしている人の名前を言うボタンだって。Enjoy。 はい、お邪魔しま
For
す。
the Stanleyparable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the
このゲー
game.
ムをプレイす
Isn't
る
that wonderful?
と話す。これじゃないのか。あ、では失礼いたします。
Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button
今のボタン
only says
ジムしか言わない。
But of course, in the final game, this button will say your
最終
name,
的には
whatever
ね。
name that is. Here, let's have you role play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature.
ジムと思っ
Just
て
play
ね。
along.
はいはい
I
はい。
promise
ロール
you'll
プレ
love
イ。
it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear
はい
your mind,
OK
forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself living as Jim. Whoa, 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 hold on. I wasn't finished setting up the
まだ終わってない。あ
backstory. If you don't properly roleplay as
そうね、
Jim,
ロールプレイ
then
しないと
you'll
ね。
never understand the impact of this button. Otherwise, it's just a stupid button that says somebody else's name. Okay, we're doing it again, and this time let me finish first. Now, Allow yourself to become
ジムになることを認める。
All right, fine, whatever. Click the meaningless button that says Jim. Are you happy
押したく
now?
なっ
Get
ちゃっ
out
て。
of here. I'm done with this button. Why don't you go humiliate me in front of a different feature that I worked very hard on?
言いたくなっちゃって、もうしたくなっちゃう。
See, if you'd only played along, that would have been your name, the button says. But no. Instead, I can't even think of
Jim,
it. I'm
Jim,
taking the Jim
Jim.
button away.
あ、
Jim.
あ、バイバイ、ジムボタン。ああ。ジム。ジム。ジム。ジム。ジム。ジム。あれか、今日からヤミの名前はジムってこと。ジムねっていうことになってしまう。
Maybe I'll only let people named Jim play the Stanley Parable
ジムって
too.
名前の人だけ。
They would appreciate what I've created here.
なるほどね。それは斬新じゃない？ここもある。今のところもあるし。あ、おしゃれですね。ニューオフィス。えうん。今のは見なかったことにする。今の方。ね、おしゃれなところでね。赤ちゃん成長したね。この4時間続けたらどうなるよっていうやつね。あ、成長したわ。体がね、成長してね。あとはオフィスデコレーション。ジャンプサークル。お、あれスタンリーじゃない？今そこにいるんだね。行くとこいっぱいだね。あー、なんかすごいの見えた。いろいろ試してみましょうか。
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's
ジャンプサー
Oh
クル
wait,
ね。
you already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle. Oh well.
それ全部使っちゃ
I
った。
suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then.
これのジャンプもできないらしい。New plus easy って書いてある。
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the
Ah,
office could
飾り
use
付け?
a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th
いつか
Birthday.
元気になるよ。
Which would you go with?
じゃあハッピーバースデ
You know,
12歳。
sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get well someday, it
ー。なんでヤミがそうやってそっちやった方をこっちにするの？こっち押したいじゃん。12歳お誕生日おめでとうじゃん。あ、決まっちゃった。ああ。
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision, we're moving on.
そうやって。ヤミに選ばしてくれない。ああ、選ばしてくれないんだ。ここも気になるよね。
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley?
Epilogue.
Yes, it would go at the end of the... well, we'll figure that out
後で
later.
考えるのね。まだまだやってないのがあるね。こっち行くか。ここ見てないね。さっきチラ見したところね。ちゃんと地図見たけど分かんなかったからやめた。 お、すごいね、これちょっと
Now
日本っ
it's a
ぽい。
real video game.
いき
In
ま
the
ー
Stanley
す。
Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's
あ、
truly
進んではいる。
innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to
進んでるのかわ
stifle
か
the
んない。
intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply
す
collect
ごい。
all of them, and then you move the hell on with your
人だ。
own life.
たったかたったったーん。やった。え、なんかゲットした。何この要素。集める感じ。おう。ああ、全部集めればいいのかな。
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
欲しい欲しい。
Now, here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes. You see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the achievement will be given to you. It's as simple as that.
はいはい。なんかね、観光しつついろいろやっていくって感じかもしれないね。で、失礼します。
Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in a sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
まだもらえないんだ。もらえないんだって。
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
あ、ここ見てない。ホール。無限の穴って書いてあったな。ブラックホールみたいな。わかんない。英語読めない。ね、英語読める方のこういうのも楽しんでいただきまして。わかんない。インフィニティ何この地層みたいな表してる。ぐるりん。また奥の日本から行ったら
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's
ブラ
never
ジル
been
に
done
行く
before
み
in
た
a
いな。
video game. This is in fact a hole
永
that you
遠
can
に
fall down
落
forever.
ち続けることができる。
Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium.
まあ任せてくださいよ。あ、こんにちは。いきます。3、2、1、ほい。
You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions.
なんかゾワゾワする。
Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward.
G を押すと地上へ戻りますだって。闇落ちだけに。
Now, I don't mean to be a bummer,
そう、闇
but I
落ち
do
だけ
recommend
に。
you use the teleport button to go back to the
ちょっ
top.
と言うこと聞きたくない。
Sooner rather than later.
反抗期、イヤイヤ期です。
Okay, Stanley. I don't know quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that
落ちる
I
音が。
slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole?
深い穴。
It's an extremely deep hole.
わか
I
ん
don't
な
want
い。
anyone to say that
何
it
かある
isn't
か
an
もしれないよ。
astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a...
いた。
Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the
やったー。
hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever. Look, I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling.
まあ無限って言っても
Person
な。
actually wants to fall infinitely. I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe
あー、な
you're
んで
the
怒んの
problem.
怒んないで。
Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both
Hi.
said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the whole mostly infinite? If that
まあ
works
確か
for
に
you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
闇落ちすると硬いってのなんかもう絶対違う意味合いやん。ここで押しちゃうのジオ。タバコジオ、ちょっと待っちゃおうかな。すごいね、あんなぽっちり白い穴が多分地上なんだろうけど、ちょっと地下生活楽しもう。うわリアルじゃない？これさ、じゃあさ、この汚れみたいな白いプツプツなんかあるか数えてから治療行こうよ。すごいこと言い始めた。行くしかないか。
Now, I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel.
Look
Oh,
out,
for
look.
heaven. You see, I was right. The problem is you. The problem is that you like holes too much. Not normal. A normal person would have
もう
said,
なん
"Yep,
か
that's an infinite
落ちろ
hole
って
right
言
there.
ってる
It goes
感
on
じだ
forever
った
till
じ
the
ゃ
end
ん。
of time. Don't need to see it all, but not you. Oh, no, 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 no.
あん
You
たは
can't
変な
do
タイ
that
プの。
sort of- Oh. Did the hole
あ
seem
短
even
く思え
shorter
た。あ
to you
短くな
this
ってる
time?
よ。
I couldn't help but feel like you spent a little less time in there than you did before. I mean, admittedly, I didn't make an infinite hole, but I didn't think it was that not infinite. Well, I suppose once again there's nothing to do here. If you decide you've had enough of the hole, you can hit the teleport button and come join me up above. Had enough? I'm
そうだね。
positively thrilled. Gosh, how could I have guessed? You're back in the hole. If this starts to become a thing where...
はい。
Wow.
ああ、やっぱりちょっと短くなってる。
I'm starting to become extremely certain that the hole is not only not infinite, but that it's growing steadily less and
ね、
less
小さくな
infinite.
ってきてる。
I suspect that I'm starting to hit the
もう
point
足が
where
動い
it's
ちゃっ
no
て。
longer feasible to call the hole infinitely deep, even by the lax overall standards for accountability and marketing. What's going on here? Stanley, I have no explanation for the uncertain nature of the hole's length. Here, let's try something. Let's pop back up to the top, and we'll see if it gets any shorter. Well, there it is. How is this still appealing to you? I know you're obsessed with holes, but at this
いや
depth,
もう
I
こ
just
こも
can't
さやっ
see
ぱり
this
ちゃんとね
scratching
お
the
風呂
itch.
みたいな感じで入んなきゃじゃん。
Who am I to judge? You just do whatever it is you're here to do and hit the teleport button when you're ready to move on. Is
聞かない。押してるの
teleport
に
button
闇。
not working?
聞かない。
You sure?
マジで言っ
Well,
て
I
る
mean, I really don't have an explanation. It was working.
No.
Still nothing. Well, I suppose there is one thing I can do to fix this. I'm out. Goodbye, Stanley. You
Nani?
couldn't bear to be away from the hole, and now you'll get more time with it than you could ever have asked for. It's a win for everyone. You get to be with the hole. I get to do literally anything else.
ああ、そうやって離れていっちゃう
Take
んだ。
care, Stanley.
バイ
I
バ
hope
イ
you。on the whole have a wonderful rest of eternity.
あ、行っちゃった。まあなんか落ち着くし、今日はここで寝るとしようかな。まあいいかな。もうだってナレーションいないし。言うこと聞かなくてもいいし。ね。闇をつるとね、壁ね。ああね。シー。それ以上は言っちゃいかんよ。そうやってあれなんだ。あ、じゃんじゃんじゃんじゃん。あ、すごい低くなってるよ。バイバイ。なんか神秘的。下がってきてる。なんや？うるさいナレーションないし、なんか素敵な BGM 始まったし、エミはこの穴で過ごそうかな。綺麗や、なんか。バイバーイ。みんなまた今度会おうね。視点を変える F。わお。スタンリー。スタンリー。スタンリー。スタンリー。わーお。ドゥン。 ュン。ちょっと曲に合わせて音リズムがえおおここみたいな。
Stanley? Stanley?
もう楽しい。あ
Oh,
ーえ
good, you're awake. It seems you had sort of
あー
dozed
夢
off
か。
drifting away into
あ
dream.
夢か。
But we can't
よだれが
because this
危ない
role
危ない。
is just so darn fascinating that I want you to be
戻ってきたん
wide
だ。
awake for every second of it. You don't want to miss a single moment.
えちょっと楽しくて今
How about if I just pop in from time to time and wake you up to keep you really truly focused on the whole. From the looks of things, you and I will have many, many years here in this
あ
hole.
もう全然楽しめ
I'm
る
looking forward to all of it.
30分ぐらいもできる
Stay
気が
alert,
する
Stanley.
いろんなリズムを
I'll be
刻んでじゃーんじゃんじゃんじゃーんって言ってちょっとまた寝たいな音が聞こえるもん幻聴のようにさっきのリズムが戻ってきちゃった
Here we are. Go on. Try out some of the new features.
あとはもうとりあえずこっち側は穴もいったしフリーのあれもやったしほぼ無限の穴になってるコレクターズアイテム出口あれがあったねなんかバケツのやつねバケツのマークここから行ってないのオフィスデコレーション決まったんでしょ
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game.
何しま
It's
すか
the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley,
バケツ
anytime
を
you're holding the
抱きしめ
bucket,
るときは
a
いつだっ
sense
て
of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more
バケツ持っていいってこ
convenient
と
solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try.
試していいんですか試させていただいてもよろしいんですかねもうさっきみたいに楽しんじゃうよ楽しんじゃってもいいんですねじゃあ楽しませてもらいますなんでそんな割れ方するの
The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in
絶望に
fact,
直面し
can
た
I
の。
say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well?
まあバケツの
I think that just
音に
holding
落ち
it
着くは
has
落ち
made
着
you
く
the。slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on and on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable.
まだ遊べんの？あ、これバケツを持ったまんまなんだね。
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already.
これでも遊んだもんね。バケツが邪魔で見えない。いいが出口？でも全部行ったくない？ジャンプタグ、リースマップ、これマップ、フリーのあれでしょ？実績、なんだろう、名前言ってくれるやつ。あとあそこのお店屋さんとワールドチャンピオンセッティングワールドチャンピオンって何？あそこに置いてある展示のやつか。じゃあ行ったな。じゃあ出口行きまーす。バケツ持ちながらね。
All right.
ちょっと
Have you seen everything you wanted to?
全
Ready
部
to
見
move
た。
on now?
はい、進みましょう。進ませていただきます。
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features?
いや
Yes, I
ー、
know it's not exactly
実
clear
績
yet
と
how
かね、
exactly these features will come together as one
フィ
single
ギュア集めるの
coherent
とかやり
video
たい
game,
です。
but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
2?
Well, I mean,
まあ
there's
なんかすごい
potential
わ。
here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement.
そうね、ちょっと綺麗にね。
Yes, this is
あれは
much better.
集めた
I
だ
feel
けだ
good
から。
about this. Here we go. Version 2.
2! まあマットとかいい味は出して
Who
る
am
と
I
思
kidding,
う。
Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags.
ペットバケツ。
And I do very much enjoy
常に抱っ
creating
こ。
gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic
い
of
い
the
じゃん。
first
頑張
game.
って。
I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it.
上品にね。
Of course, with respect, with care for the
これ
vision
は
and
通常のね。
integrity of the original game.
感じよね。
Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says
タイ
with
トル画面
bold and
どうする？
uncompromising conviction, this is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up.
作って作って。
All right, perfect. Go ahead.
はい。
Take a look.
あー、おしゃんじゃん。いいじゃん。なんかちょっとね、怪しい感じ、なんかちょっと酔いそうだけど。進むけども。いいなぁ。めっちゃいいと思う。ちょっと始めてみますか。おしゃれ。
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee
あ、これ
number
最初のやつだ。
Employee number 427's job was
そう
simple.
単純なの
He
です。
sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to
一本
him
指でね。
through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
スタンリーは幸せ。まあそうね。
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say
風船あった。
Never in all his years at the company had this happened. This complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
行きますか?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
もう風船要素がねある感じね。お、ここ通れなくなってる。
Stanley picked up the bucket.
もうバケツ持っちゃったよ。ペットだもん。バケツよね。もうこの音が最高。
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest
で、
and
右行
entered
き
the door
ま
on
ーす。
his lap. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him
バケツが
that the employee lounge
そう
was
そう、バ
simply
ケ
the
ツが
place
伝え
to
て
be.
た。ここに来てほ
And
しい
here
っ
it
て。
was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct?
バケ
Was
ツは
this
一番
better than
正
the
しいよ。
meeting room? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
全部バケツのせいにするや
Stanley
ん。
took the door on his left
行
to
か
go
な
back
いよ
to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
No.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The
Meeting
cargo lift,
room.
yes. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this
いや、
bucket
もう
was
こっち
speaking
行き
to him.
たい。
It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think
トゥ
about
トゥル
this
ドゥ
obvious
ー
fact.
さ
He was
あ、ヤ
firmly
ミ選手
convinced
飛べ
that
る
the
のでし
bucket
ょ
had
う
spoken
か。
to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
バケツの言う通りにはしません。バケツの言うことも聞きません。
No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket
ねえ、
here?
バケツ禁
Unless-
止。
What if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior.
ペット
up to
の、
this
ああ、
point.
まあペット
Which,
禁止
if
か。
that's true, well,
なるほ
my
ど。
goodness.
もう納得し
I
た。
think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly.
でも一緒に行きたいな。
So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
テクティーン。おしゃんなとこに来
Now
ました
then,。I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket.
バ
Simple
ケツ
enough,
かどう
right?
か
This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is
バ
or
ケ
is
ツ
not
か
a
バケツ
bucket.
じゃないか
Okay, let's begin.
?OK? これ
Item
は、
1. Is this a bucket?
まあバケツです。
Incorrect. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an
ふ
actual.
ざけんなだよね。そうやって。
Item 2. Is this a bucket?
でこれバケツじゃないです。
Correct.
おお。
It is a 3D printed
ああ、よかっ
recreation
た。
of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
はいはい。任せて任せて。
Item 3. Is this a bucket?
バケツじゃないです。
Incorrect.
バケツ嘘。
Item 4.
あ、もう、
Is this a bucket?
そうですね。はい。
Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's an enormous machine that tills the
いやいやいや、
earth.
バケツだって呼んでる。名前が
How on
さ
earth did you manage to screw it
ペ
up?
ットだから。
Absolutely
名前がバケツってほ
incredible.
ら。
Let's just move on to the next one.
バケツって名前かもしれないじゃん。やっぱさ、乗るものだってね、名前をつけたりすることもあるよ。
Is this a bucket?
これはバケツって名前じゃないと思う。
Incorrect.
どこがバケツなんだって。名前がか？ヤミがさっきバケツって言ったからか？やられた。変なこと言わなければよかった。
Item 6.
これはバケツと見せかけてのホログラム。
Trick question. Both. Got it.
何が両方だよ。両方ボタンをないやんけ。
Item. Wait, hold on. I can't find the
次
next
の
one.
やつが
Let me see.
見
It
当
should
た
be
らな
around
い。
here
じゃあこの
somewhere.
ヤミの持ってるほらバケツをほら、はい。ほい。はい、こちらバケツです。
Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I
Ande?
don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something, and therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced
ひねく
yourself
れた
that a
心って
bucket
言
is
われた。
nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket?
いや、バケツはまあ時によっては無になるかなと思うんですけど、でもなんかさっきなるのですかってそんなことありえないじゃんみたいな言い方されたんでないにしときます。
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago, I could answer these
もう
questions
バケ
with
ツって呼ん
confidence.
だらもうバケツでいい。バケツじゃないと思ったらバケツじゃないでいい
Do
と思い
any
ま
of
す。
us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket?
バケツ
Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever
ああ
had.
大変だ。狂ってきちゃ
I'm
うね
afraid the。bucket is threatening to tear our
バケツ
relationship
が私たちの
apart.
関係を
I
きた。
can't have that. I'm
バ
sorry.
ケツのせいでね。
But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go.
バケツなくなっちゃうの？なんかちょっと悲しいじゃん。ペットペットって
What
言って
happened?。Is everything gone?
聞いちゃ
Why
っ
did
た。
everything disappear? Wait,
あ、お
was
疲れ様だ
everything
よ。
bucket? Every
はいよ、
single
こっそ
thing
り
in the
ね。
game was a bucket. My God, I had no idea. How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're
そう
not
か、
a
他はもう
bucket
バ
either.
ケツだったんだ。
This is wonderful news. We're not buckets.
私たちバケツじゃなかった。
Yes,
バケツじゃな
I
かった。
actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
Here we go. これ通常でまた行く感じか。あ、でも風
All
船
of
はあ
his
る。
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
バ
Stanley
ケ
lifted the
ツ。
bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him.
あ、ここにあれがないね。さっき紐あったのに。バ
Stanley clutched the bucket
buckets.
tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him,
きの
telling
上の
him
方行ってない
that
も
the
んね。
employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the
正し
bucket
かっ
turned
た
out to
け
be
どすぐ行っちゃい
correct?
ま
Well,
す。
Never mind. The bucket was
で、さっ
wrong.
き降りちゃったの
Stanley
で
took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the
Come
meeting
on,
room.
Mama.
Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Good.
Said the bucket. But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket.
一番の親友であるバケツと。
So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms.
ああ、
How deeply touching.
感動ものになったらしい。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go
こ
to
の
the
前
meeting
のあ
room.
れを
Perhaps he
バ
had
ケツ
simply
とも
missed a
に
memo.
エ
The
ール
confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
一個一個ね、やっ
Stanley
ていきま
clutched
し
the
ょう。
bucket tightly to his. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket
はい、
calling
バ
to
ケツ
him,
の音が
telling
ね、
him
本当
that
にい
the
い。
employee lounge was simply the place to be.
あ、
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
奥まで
Stanley
行き
took
ま
the
しょう、
door
これ
on。his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the
な
bucket.
あ、
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. A cargo lift.
メイティングルー
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious
まあまあ
fact.
まあ、行き
He
ま
was
しょう
firmly
か。
convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever
そう
the
よ、お
bucket
友達も
asked.
ペットです。シュー。
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
こっちね。
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
暗い。おお。
Now pick up the...
Whoa, hold on. Why did you
No, do that.
unplug the phone? Were you trying to resist the bucket's orders? Stanley, I was joking. Obviously, the bucket isn't talking to you and telling you to do things. Buckets can't talk.
It was a joke. Don't you get the joke? It's funny, Stanley. A talking bucket.
Can't you see? Oh, goodness. I must have really bungled up the delivery if you actually took me seriously. Where did I mess up the joke?
ジョークのミス、その闇ポカンとしちゃった今。
Or spoken quicker? Comedic timing is so difficult. I wish I were better at it. But there isn't exactly an instructional video on comedy that one can watch to fully... Oh, wait, yes, there is. It's sitting right
女
here.
に見るの？
Let's take a look.
What
Oh.
is comedic timing? What is comedic timing? How does it work? How long should it last?
タイミングね。
How can it be used to effectively silence
Oh,
your
大事か
political
も。
enemies? And more importantly, can it be taught in its entirety within 90 seconds? Thankfully, the answer to all of these questions is yes.
う
Let's
わ
dive
ー。
deeper. If you've ever told a joke
Hi,
or made
tutai
someone
pare.
laugh, in all likelihood, you did it while standing 50 to 80 centimeters
50
from
から
them
80
in a
センチ。
room of no more than
24
76
度以
degrees
下の方で。
Fahrenheit, with one of your arms raised straight upward
上げて。
at a 15-degree angle from your body. These are the optimal conditions for good comedic timing.
はーい、み
To
たい
begin
な
the。joke, start by stating and spelling your name. Next, provide a brief synopsis of the joke, including the specific times at which the recipient of the joke will laugh, and then spell out your name a second time. With these steps complete, it's time to begin the humor.
でもこれ
Speak
試してみ
the
ようかな。
entire joke in no more than 18 seconds
Oh.
and no less than 13 and a half, pausing only for bathroom breaks when necessary. When the joke has concluded, it is customary to inform your listener that the joke is over by declaring in your loudest
宣言しなきゃいけ
possible
ないね、手挙げ
voice,
ながらね。
I'm Dunny with the funny.
I'm
Let's practice
Danny
screaming, I'm Dunny with the funny.
with the party 言わされてます。言わされました。
Good. This saying is a perfect example of expectations management, which is the cornerstone of good comedy. Finally,
Aye.
it's time to hand out surveys. Collecting hard data from your audience on how rapt they were throughout the joke is the only way to grow or learn as a comedian. An effective survey should be no less than 10 pages long
10ペー
and
ジ以
should
上。
include the same question reprinted several times, just to ensure the survey taker is actually paying attention and not simply filling in answers at random. And that's all there is. With these strategies at your disposal, you'll
こ
have
れを見ればできるってこと
doubled
ね。
over in laughter and
うわ
even tripled over in laughter in no time at all. Just remember to let them stop laughing at some point, you gut-busting little scamp. After all, we're each of us needed on the front lines of the war to fight the 12-legged invader who threatened our
なんか
very
変なの出てきた。
existence and to very likely die in a hailstorm of bullets and mandibles. All of us must be prepared to give our lives to this noble cause, just as our children must do after us, and their children after them. Godspeed, and may Earth reign
Oh.
supreme.
終わった？
Hey, goodness, this video is a little outdated, isn't it? Well, no matter. I think the fundamentals of proper comedic timing are still as relevant today as they were back then. So, with that in mind, I believe the only way forward is for us to return to the two doors and walk through all of this again, so I can try telling my story with more appropriate comedic delivery. Come along, let's head back.
もう出てっていいってこと？出ていきましょうか、じゃあ。ありがとうございました。いや、コメディのね、ジョークを入れるタイミング、学ばせていただきました。帰りますか。
I can feel it. This time, I'm really going to nail the delivery. You'll be in stitches. A talking bucket, you'll say? How ridiculous. How absurd. What a hilarious concept. The king of comedy. That's what you'll call me. Thank goodness we had the instructional video. Otherwise, who knows where we'd be right now. Well, I wouldn't be the king of comedy, that's for sure.
もうビデオで学ばせていただきました。
The bucket spoke. The bucket spoke. Oh, I'll figure it out on the fly. No need to overthink things.
はい。よいしょ。戻る感じね。バケツちゃんと一緒に。
Here we go. You ready?
Okay.
When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
Okay.
What? We're back at the phone already? No. What's going on? There was
なん
supposed
で
to
も
be
う教
several
育ビデオ
rooms
い
leading up to
い。
this. There was supposed to be a build-up to this point, a dramatic display of remarkable comedic wit that culminates in this scene with the phone. But now the timing's completely off. The joke will never land. Well, not the way it
もう
was
この部屋で行わ
meant.
れ
And
る
it's
ことは
all
ないと。
my fault. I must have forgotten that the phone room comes immediately after the two doors room. What an egregious
え、違
mistake.
うよ、絶対。
I've made a fool of myself. I don't deserve
構造
the
がお
title
か
of
しく
king
なっ
of
とるっ
comedy.
て。
I'm nothing. I'm not even the lowliest joke-telling whelp. I think I need to
もう
go
一回見るの？
rewatch that
本気で言ってる？
instructional video again.
本気ですか？
Surely that will help me improve my.
もうちょっと学べってことかな。
Here we go.
Oh.
You ready?
っていう
When
ことがあっ
Stanley
た
and
ら
the
ね。
bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
戻らせてください。絶対またあれじゃん。ごめんなさいって。
We're back at the phone already. No. Here we go.
はい、ごめんなさい。もうね、こっちですよね。もう自然とスッて終わらせられたもん、今。同じことだから。
No. You were supposed to go through the door on the right, leading back to the phone. Did you not even look at the instructional video?
見た。
I think this is all covered very clearly. There's no way I can make the comedic timing work.
待って、コメディが足りねえって。ねえ、ちょっとダメだって。
Your fault, Stanley.
お前だって。
ridiculed in the community of other joke writers.
いや、もうさ、そろそろいいかなって。
From now on, all because you couldn't watch a simple video and take a hint.
やっぱやりすぎるのも良くないと思って。
Stanley, are you proud?
あ、もう自分勝手だもん。来たー。 もうナレーション違うもん。 バケツが好きなんですよね。バケツ好きだと思われてる？ OK か。あ、そっか、バケツと OK ね。
We're getting away from making fun of Stanley's obsession with the bucket, which was the whole point of this. I'm no good at these.
得意じゃないんだ。
Need more instructional videos. That's exactly what it is. That's what will make me the king of comedy. More
ビデオ
instructional
ごめんねリロイ。
Let's see.
よ という感じでまあね。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he...
Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home.
ほんでこっち
Stanley
行く
touched the
か。
bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his
練
left.
習し。んで
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever.
いいね。
Perhaps his boss's office.
ま
Coming to
ず
a
下から行
staircase,
きまし
Stanley and the bucket
ょ
walked upstairs to the boss's office.
う。あ、
You found one of them. One
いい
of
ね、
the
1個
miniature
目。
Stanley
2個目だ。
figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these.
今週なくてもいいよ。
Only the intrinsic pleasure
嬉しく
of a
なるじゃ
job
ん。
well done.
こういう
You
集め
can't
物っ
buy
て。
that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore
Stanley
you to
Prayer.
savor each and every moment you come across
い
one
い
of
よ。
these beautiful figurines.
スタンリーフィギュア。
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work
バケツと
hours.
一緒に
He
過
might
ご
be
すんだ。
fined for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he
夢
was
落ちた。
crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley.
これ言わないよう
Maybe,
にね、みん
he
な。
thought to himself,
ご注意
maybe
く
I
ださ
am
い。
crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms.
くるくるしてるん
Am
で。
I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all.
バケツ何も言ってくれない。
Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt
バケツお
none
友
of
達
its
だから
familiar
な。
reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a
酔う
normal,
方はね、まだ目
everyday
つぶって
bucket.
いただいて。
Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly
これは
wrong.
まさか。
Surely no good would come from this.
バケツ
Who
が。
knows what sorts of bizarre
バケツが
hallucinations
ない。
Stanley
あ、
might experience
不安、
without the
不安。
psychologically grounding presence of the bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious,
浮いてき
he
た。
exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it?
え、
I
バ
must
ケツ、
find
バケ
it.
ツ、バケツ。
Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
どこだ、どこだ。
Stanley, Stanley, it's me, the bucket.
Could it truly be?
Buckets,
He rushed forward from room to room, passing by
Oh,
one
不安でし
bucket
かない
after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
は
Come to me, Stanley. Find me.
He had to find the
怖い
bucket.
怖
He
い
had to
あ
return to
怖い
his old friend. It was the only way to truly
待って
restore his sanity.
うわー
He
闇の
was
トラウマの夢を思い出した
dead in his tracks. He knew where
うわー
the
ゾワッ
voice
と
of
し
the
た
bucket had been coming from.
もう悪夢
The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful.
ちょっと
Stanley doubled over in agony.
これなんかね1個あって大事にしてあったものが増えるっていう現象が本当に怖くて
This is
わ
a
かんないんだよ
story
なんていう
of a
恐怖
woman
症なんだろう
named Mariella.
これはまさ
Mariella
か
woke up on a day like any other. She arose,
あーゾワッとした
dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of
バ
work.
ケツを持ったのね彼
But
女
on
が
this
ね
particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she
悲しい
knew
や
what
つ
the
ね
problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course, he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video
かわいそうに。
game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time
そ
for
う
this.
時間がないんだよね
There
彼女
were
には
a
ね
myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself. My life kicks ass.
私の人生やべえわ
The way to work.
やべえわって思ったね本当にそう前にも話したんだけどヤミの大事にしてたぬいぐるみワンちゃんのぬいぐるみがあって夢の中で迷路の中で突き当たりのところにその大事にしてるぬいぐるみが 山積みになってたのそう、好きなぬいぐるみがバーンって。もうそれが恐怖で、どれが自分の大事にしてるぬいぐるみなのかっていうので、もうあわあわしちゃって、夢の中で。もう起きてからちゃんと確認したよね。ちっちゃい時だったからこそそれがトラウマで、今ああいうなんか一個大事にしてるものがパンって急激に増えるのがなんか恐怖症になっててそう、何恐怖症って言ったらいいのか分かんないんだけど。めちゃくちゃ怖い。今ゾワッとしてしまった。この大事にしてるバケツが増えちゃったことに。これね、あっち側行ってなかったね。こっちの左。そう、めっちゃあれは知り合いのね、絶対ナイトメアがね仕掛けたよ。闇の悪夢見せて、なんか勉強会だみたいなことして、もう本当にちょっと恐怖を感じたってことは多分、おおフォーエバー、びっくりした。あの赤ちゃんじゃん。
You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
見に行ってもいいんですか？行きますか。
Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
Now
this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
It's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
おお、ちゃんと黄色の上歩くんだ。偉いから歩くんだ。
We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character.
新キャラ。
This is the Bucket Destroyer.
バケツ？
I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree?
もう大丈夫。もうね、みんながいて
Can
く
you
れる。
guess what the Bucket Destroyer does?
何をすると思う？もうこれ入れるしかないでしょ。バイバイ。
Say goodbye to the bucket and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
めっちゃバケツがこっち見てくる。いや、めっちゃ押してる。
It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the bucket destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The Broom Closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this.
Okay, the bucket destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and
Esa,
feed it.
esa,
We can't get
agilin
back
mai.
to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
わっ、機械が回る回る。バケツ、多分バケツの底を手のひらでバンって下から持ち上げながら持ってるんだと思う。
marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you, all of it squandered now.
無駄になっちゃった。
New friend.
New
For the
friend.
moment in time that you were here, you
おー、
were magnificent.
バイバイ。悲しいね。っていうお話だ
All
っ
of
た
his
らしい。
co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
あ、なんか
Stanley decided to go
全
to
部
the
ついて
meeting
る
room.
よ。
Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
全部ではなかった。けどパソコンがめちゃくちゃついてる。あ、バケツが本体だった。イヤイヤ期バケツ。もしかしたらスタンリーがバケツだった説はあり得る。全部パソコン消そう。電気代もったいないからね。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct
あれ
way
待っ
to
て。
the meeting room, and Stanley knew it.
あ、ちょっとごめん。もう一度始める。バケツ持つの忘れた。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket. Off on another thrilling adventure together.
Stanley clutched the
そう
bucket
です。
tightly
バ
to
ケ
his...
ツ
This
を
was
ね、
not the correct way to the meeting
持
room.
ちな
But
が
Stanley
ら。
had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct?
あそこの
Well,
左
no,
入って奥まで行き
never
ま
mind.
しょ
The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
う。はい、やってきました。うお、どっかにあるかな。ミッション。ちょっとなんかわかんない。これやったらいいの？レッド&ブルーのやつもやらなきゃいけない？そこにあるのかな ?6 個。ラージルーム。レッドオブボックスなんだろう。レッド&ブルーはあそこのどこでしょう？わかんない。とりあえず全部やろう。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
ここ行っちゃうとまたあれになっちゃう。危ない危ない。上行くか。来た
Another
ー。
miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name
ラウ
for
ン
these
ジルーム。
things. What
箱
about
がいっぱい。
mini Stan?
ラウンジルーム。ラウンジルームってどこだろう。
What about Stanlerines?
Stanlerines.
Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under
スタ
your
ンリ
belt.
ン。床が青。これとかかな。でもそこにあるってことだよね、多分ね。まあここも行かなきゃですよね。はい。上でもいいよ。ありがとうございます。動かないんだよね。
Stepping in.
バイバイ。置いてったわ、ナレーションまた。戻ったからあれか、アップデートみたいにされてないから吹いてないか。オシャンだ。オシャンな写真が。でここが空いてると。ありましたね、こんなところも。バケツとともに上がっちゃいますか。探したから次か。もっと進めば多分順番にあるよね。よしよしよし。何回までだっけ？ 60 までか。760とかだった気がするな。頑張れ頑張れ。あと1回。着いた着いた。いいねいいね。よいしょ。そうだ。どうですかね。なんかうっすら見える。なんかある。なんだ？入っちゃう？あ、バケツをね。押すの？あ、撫でてんのね。あ、もう可愛がってんじゃん。ペットだよ本当に。持ち上げて置いて。なんだなんだ、幻想的な BGM 流れ始めたけど、最後のお別れ。あーバイバイ。あーバケツ。なくなっちゃった。あーかわいそうに。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
あ、バケツがない。バケツがない。悲しい。
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
バケツ。お、3つなので。もうちょっと見つけに行きますか。どこだろう。
Coming to a
この
staircase,
上司
Stanley
に行
walked
って。
upstairs to his boss's office.
ここにあったんだもんね。あって、ここも行ったから、素直に入りましょうか。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number.
この偉いさんの近くがあそこか。
2845. But of course,
2845
Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
待って2845バケツとの旅もうちょっとしたかっ
By simply pushing
た。
random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck.
イエーイ。
He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
あった。
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines. And now I'm
Yatta!
torn between Stanlerines and Figlets. What do you think,
Stanlerines.
Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by
いいね、
one?
6分の4って。
I'm
もう
sure
全部
it will
集め
come
た
to
い。
me.
あと2個。バケツ。
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question
あ、
would
もうめ
not
ちゃくちゃ
go
翻訳ありが
unanswered
と
for
う。
long.
助かる。ピチパチ。プチパチ。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read
エス
Mind
ケープ。ま
Control
ずこっちから行
Facility.
くか。
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself.
変わんない
Did
か
he
な
have the strength to find out?
話どうだろ
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers.
う。あれ何
The
番だ
lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place. where freedom meant
234番がぐちゃぐちゃになってんね。誰の部屋なんだか。
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it
部
blindly?
屋が違かった。よいしょ。
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible?
どこ
Had
に
he
あんだか。
truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the
ド
world?
キドキしいのとこだ。
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions.
Operation.
Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life.
そうそうそ
For
う。
he would dismantle the controls once. Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do.
Yay,
But you
yay.
need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave.
オンにしなきゃよ
If。you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to
5
shine.
番
You are the star. It's your story now.
もう一回
Shape
挑戦
it
し
to
た
your
くない
heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere
青い
moments
3
until the
番
bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me. Where
3
we're
番
going,
3番
what all this means. I
上
barely
だ
know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of
成功でき
solace
そうだね
before
この
you're
前
obliterated.
成功例4じゃんこれ
Good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying
3ど
alone.
こなこれか
Other times, I let the office sink into the
そうだよね。
ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go.
1番
But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go around will be
3
even
番
better.
3番
My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional
Wow.
seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was
これどう？
capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button. Or this
もしや
door.
5の
Everything, anything.
ボタン
Something
が
here
ある
will
のか
save
な青
me.
の5
Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? One
緑の
soul?
5か
Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a
Michael.
spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every
Nice.
moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge.
Ow.
It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you
あ
take a look at the
What
clock,
do you-
Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here. Just you
Don't.
being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully?
怖い怖い
Another
怖い
choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every
Bye,
second
bye,
of your
Mina.
inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say happily ever after.
うっっていう夢を見たそんな感じバケツは復活
The
しないの
meeting
か
room.
な
Yes, that's where everyone would be. Stanley just needed to get to the meeting room, and from then on, he would never be alone ever again.
And try not to lose this one too, you dolt.
間抜き野郎って言われたでもバケツが復活してるそういう感じさっきちゃんと言ってないのはどこだ奥行った右側行ったあでもそれくらいか
Stanley clutched the
もうだ
bucket
からあと
tightly
左
to
側
his
だよ
chest
ね
and entered the door on his left.
4つねレッド&ブルーそっかあっち側も行かなきゃいけないか
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
おい
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck.
よし
Was it that the bucket knew all along?
バケツは最初から分かってたみたい
Yes, this is
バケ
certainly
ツ
the
が
most
相棒だから
logical explanation. The
鳩に
elevator
こう
raced
見つけ
downward,
たい
plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
よし行くぞ
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read,
一旦
Mind
こっち
Control
行きま
Facility.
す
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
おしまいの時が来る
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every
引き
opportunity to
返さ
turn
ないもう
around
突き
and
進
get
む
back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
突き進むまたねピューあーずらっとするよし今回はバケツと一緒だから
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort
無意な
had turned
無意
out
味っ
to
て言わないで
be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket. But what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what
バケツは
Stanley
もう
thought
親
to
友なんだ
himself,
から
and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell,
Did that?
Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a
動ける
single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death.
ドキドキよ
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest.
あー
It
バケ
was
ツ
a
がね
glorious bucket to behold.
あーバケツあもうバケツが救ってくれたからね
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take
Ah,
a bucket
buckets
like
だ
this and to claim it for his own?
あー
Can
バ
you
ケ
see
ツが上が
the
ってく
hubris that blinded him? Can you see
うん
that the bucket
あ
is
バケツ
far
だ
more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
地獄のバケツあレプリカがねあるんですねあー水道がついてるタイプのねバケツありますよねえトンボルトこのリズム好きバケツが人類誕生より前にすでに実在していたことは知られているもののあったんだファンボーランタン探訪って言ってるいいねノリノリです
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one.
バケツっ
It
て
is
人類
man
誕
who
生
should
前より
kneel
やったん
before
だ
the bucket.
ぶら下げられたバケツいけーえあ取っちゃった
But There is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket should take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision of the...
これでいいんかい、女性ナレーターさん。いいですかね。電話鳴ってる。はい。はい。
Good morning. Thank you for contacting the Future Happiness Foundation. We are confirming your shipment of 1,327 cardboard boxes to your place of work. Can you verify that this is correct? Excellent. Your order will arrive
なんか押しといた。
Thank you again for contacting the Future Happiness Foundation.
これなんかあったね。こうやっていくやつ。Meeting today.
Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly fine with him.
これで、あ、いけるかな。よし。来たー。
Yes, whispered the bucket into Stanley's ear. We've done it. We've escaped from that dull
逃げ
office
てた、
and
逃
that
げてた。
pesky narrator. At last, out here in the white void, we are alone. Now, and for the first time, I can reveal to you my true self. The bucket began to tell Stanley of its life and its history, of the countless wars it witnessed, desecrating the land and lives of untold numbers of innocent humans, and the bucket's own complicity therein, of sadness and regret, and the many years it spent dwelling on the actions it might have taken to curb the madness and the decay, if only it had been stronger, of hope and redemption, and its crusade to uplift the stock of life for the common man, to manifest justice where none existed, and the bittersweet reality of time, to see one's dreams and wishes met halfway, meted out in parcels like charity, and abandoned as soon as the warm glow of inspiration begins to dim. The opportunities to do so much more. There was so much it could have done, perhaps, the bucket wondered to itself. Perhaps, if it had seen its own darkness with a clearer perception. This was way too much for Stanley.
What are you talking about?
He screamed.
You're a bucket?
To this,
No,
the bucket furrowed
bucket.
its brow.
No,
Said the bucket.
not since the evil wizard Gambharata first ensnared me in his machinations as payback for the sacred amulet I stole from his treasured vaults. I was young back then and could not conceive the ramifications of... No!
Oh,
Stanley screamed even
す
louder
ごい
this
声
time.
のバケツ。
It's stupid!
あ、ナレーション曰くバケツはこんな声してんだね。
Bucket! This is so
お前はバケツだろ。
Why are we even doing
あ
As Stanley screamed and screamed and screamed,
Oh,
the
いいな、お
bucket
酒。
revealed its true form, transforming into a mighty beast of
うん、
untold
思
power,
わした。
its fangs glistening like...
あ、終わった。カンカンカン。ぐしゃん。
My God, Stanley, you did it. You saved us from the bucket. Thank God you already had all 12 emblems of sages and knew the incantations to summon their true power. Otherwise, we would have easily been overwhelmed by the bucket's power. I'm speechless. You've demonstrated such bravery here today. Come, let's restart the game, and we'll agree to never again go trifling with this bucket, nor the dark magic cast away inside of it.
ちょっと残酷よ、このバケツさん。ねえ、ちょっと待って。猫ちゃんがめっちゃ可愛いポーズで寝てんだけど。ちょっと後で乗せるわ。可愛い。 思わず写真を撮ってしまった。あ、
Just
ダ
a
ブル。
step through this door, Stanley thought to himself, that's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all.
なんだなんだ。あっちには行けなくなってる。あ、
A good bucket, a strong bucket,
良
a
いバケ
humble
ツ。
bucket, a committed bucket, a bucket of culture and distinction. Stanley clutched the
は
bucket
い、
tightly to
一
his
人行きま
chest
す。
and entered the door on his left.
まだ見つけてないんだよね。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer
運で
luck.
ね。
Was
運
it
で
that
当
the
てました
bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
よしよしよし。あとどこだろうね。
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control. Although this passageway had the word
でも同
escape
じになっちゃうか
written
な、
on
エ
it,
ス
the
ケープ
truth
行ったら。
was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
同じだったら戻るか。で、赤
The
と
door
青の。
behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
同じっぽいか。ぽいね。もう一度始めちゃって、赤帯へ行きますか。
Someone was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them.
Lind
It was
is
only a matter
neighbor.
of time.
バケツ持って。
The embrace of an old friend, a weathered companionship
大事よ
that
ね。
stands the test of time.
こっち側だったっ
Stanley
け？
clutched the bucket tightly to his. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no.
どこだっ
Never
け？
mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
なんかさ、なんかどっか行くんだっけか。飲みやすすぎていいやん、でもいっぱい飲んで。何があるんだ。あともう大体はやった。何パターンあるかだけ見るかな。赤尾部屋。
No, said the bucket.
Don't go
そ
to
こ
the
奥行
meeting
くやつ
room.
が
Go
顔部屋じゃ
somewhere
なかったっ
else.
け？
The cargo lift, yes. Good, said the bucket. Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's
あ
something
れ
up
ル
there
ープ
I
ん
need
と
you
こだっ
to
け？
do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
行き過ぎちゃった。大丈夫だった。ケピケピ。可能なのは限られてる？
No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see? There's a sign right there. It says, no buckets per...
あー、そっか。じゃあバケツなしでここ来ればいいのかな？
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in,
Bye-bye, buckets.
that he would never leave it again in his life.
限られてるの。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. And here it was, the lounge. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
戻りません。
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
ここで待ってこう。
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about.
よし。
Really?
マ
I was
ジ
in
で
the middle of
す。
something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why? I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it.
来た。
Let me prove that you're getting close now, Stanley. You've
やっ
nearly
た
gotten
ー。
all of the Figler and Marines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them. And now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler and Marines. None of us can.
よしよしよし。
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Aha, perhaps you misunderstood.
誤解しちゃった。
Stanley walked through the red
そんなことない。
door. I still don't think we're communicating properly.
もうそん
Stanley
な。
walked through the red
赤ね。
door.
分かったよ。
Thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now.
めちゃくちゃ走
Don't
る
you
の
see
ね。
that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
来たー。
What do we want? What are we looking for?
切るのとこね。
Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place. No, wait. Where are you going? Oh
出
no.
た。
Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of
リ
this.
セット。リセ
Please,
ッ
no,
ト。
Stanley, let me stay here. Don't
リ
take
セ
this from
ッ
me.
ト。
Please, Stanley. No! Oh, no. No, no. What are you
何してんの？
doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was
あったな、
before.
こんな
If you
の。
die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this?
できるだけ多く。
Stanley, let's go back to the other room. My God. Is this really how much you dislike my
いやいや
game?
いや、
That you'll
ヤミは
throw
このゲー
yourself
ム
from
め
this
っちゃ好き
platform
だ
over
よ。
and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to
め
keep
ちゃ
me
くちゃ
from
好き
being
よ。
happy. Am I reading the situation correctly?
飛び。
Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore.
闇落ちしますか？イエス、どっちもじゃん。じゃあイエスでお願いします。闇に落ちますか？落ちてもらって。闇も闇に落ちます。イエス、はい。闇落ちます。あ、終わりです。はい、ありがとうございました。はい、どうも。電話対応みたいになった。あそこ行ったし。あ。
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps
the bucket made Stanley want to be a better man and a better co-worker. In time, perhaps, he would become both of...
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
ボタンが全部押されてない。これ何？ラージルーム。本が、何？ボックスが多いところ？見つけたい。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
ここにあったボタンあるじゃん。あれをさ、もう一個なんかあるはずなんだよ。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all
それ行かなきゃね。
Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
ライトか。あとどこ行ったらいいんだ？パチパチ。
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
マインドコントロールからさ、どっかあったっけ？あ、待って待って待って待って。電話さ、切ったけどさ、電話出るパターンやってないよね。行きましょうか。あ、集まった。出た。天国部屋。バケツ持ってダメなのか。
And Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in,
not everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but Stanley is a very lucky fellow. Very lucky indeed.
なんかさ、妄想のあれがあったよね。いきますかそれ。
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no.
マッピング能力がね、
The bucket was wrong.
試される。
Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
ここ行って。
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Good,
said the bucket.
Let's
now
go.
ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking.
さっきはね、コメディ
It
学
should
び
have
ましたん
alarmed
で。
him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
よしよし。
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
ここのこれは出るんだよ。
Now pick up the phone.
はい。こっちバージョン見てない。
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
失礼します。おしゃんなお部屋ですね。いいな。ハロースタンリー、僕だよ。君のバケツだよ。僕を君と戻すためにケアをして。
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
僕を君の家へ連れて帰るためにジンをして。
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object?
これめっちゃいいよ。
I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen
バケ
to
ツっ
me.
ぽいね。問題戻るためにHをして。はい。
Well, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket.
考えたら話はできません。
It can't talk.
ただのバケツ、
All
本
it
当
will
に
ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else.
このうるさい男の言うことは聞くな。僕たちが家へ帰るために B をして B。
You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful
不
bucket.
愉快な
This
バケツ。
stupid hunk of metal.
アホみたいな。君の人生で僕以外全員を無視するために R をして R。
It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore.
もう
From
私を
now
必要
on,
と
he's
してない。
just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of
この
shiny bucket.
何か輝くバケツに
Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine.
早く輝いてる。僕が実在するって信じてるんだよね、スタンリー。家へ帰るために F をして F。
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier,
3回も通り過
more
ぎた。
capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one
そうよ、
room to
大量の
another.
水運べるよ。R を押すとこの同じ日よ、R。
Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in
そう
which it's
悲しんでます。
so much more than just a regular bucket?
家へ仕事へ、家へ仕事へ、家へ帰るために Y を押せ。押してじゃなくなってる。押せ。
I'm having feelings for the bucket. No, 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 no. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do
おしゃん
anything
で
it
すね。
asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand.
ほら、バケ
Perhaps,
ツの絵
perhaps if
が。
I had
あ、
the
バケ
bucket,
ツが
this
書
would
い
be
てある。
less confusing. Yes.
あ、開けられる
The
パ
bucket
タ
could
ー
tell
ン。
me what to do in this troublesome
違
situation.
うわ。
Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it.
な
Give
ん
it to me
で
now. Give it
目を
or
閉
I'll...
じたらみんな目閉じて。まだだ。まだ。え、終わっちゃった。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
あとはやっぱあと一個見つけなきゃか。どこにあんだ。
It takes a lot of humility to carry a bucket so magnificent. Stanley checked his ego and then proceeded onward.
どっち行ったらいいんだろう。なんかさ、あれ地下の方に行ってさ、なんかなかったっけ、部屋みたいなところ行くの。上司の部屋がなんか変わるみたいな。 あれはどっちに行ったらいいんだ？
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest
上司に
and
の
entered
と
the door
こ
on
行
his
く。
left.
広い部屋、箱が少ない。箱少ない。広い部屋。広い部屋。広い部屋ってどこだ？あ、くしゃみ出そう。上司の部屋？違う。あれも行ったし。あと見てないエンド。なんだろう。もう一回行った場所見てみる？あと一個、あと一個。エレベーターで行ったやつも行ったし。
Stanley just stood there doing nothing at all.
めっちゃ
He
言われ
seems
ちゃ
to
った
think I have nothing better to do with my time than to sit around and describe every fascinating little detail of his inability to do anything. This is why Stanley and I are on such good terms.
確かに突っ立ってるだけ。広い部屋。お、びっくりした。猫ちゃんが起床しました。行った場所こっち側とか？
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the... No, never
あ
mind.
っちはもう行っ
The
た
bucket
し。
was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back, and so the two of them
こ
detoured
っちの
through the
下も
maintenance
行っ
section
た
and
し。
walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
どこだ？でもそれでこれ見つけたらまたなんかあんのかな？ラージル。広い場所。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
ここループするとこだ。下あったんだもんね。ここが少ない。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes,
Guiding?
This is certainly the most logical explanation.
多いか。箱が おい。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
ここらへん？
Stanley cradled the bucket in a gentle embrace, protective yet delicate, assertive yet compassionate.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
広くてこういうとこじゃないの？違うの？あ、トイレとここになんかヒントないかな？レッドル？あ、だからちょっとさ、写真で見れそうじゃない？いで。あ、グッドラックになっちゃった。もう一回流して。これ多分階段下でしょ？トイレ、でもないか？なさそうな気がするな。そうだな。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
やってないエンド、やってないエンド。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human
覚え
life.
ちゃっ
But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it
た。
the
全然映
bucket?
ってもない。
Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
あるかな。猫ちゃんが。
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
あそこやってないかもさ。ボタンで逃げるやつ。
Lights rose on an enormous room
オフ
filled
に
with
するパターンや
television
ってないかもな。
screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
行かせていただきます。
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs.
次
The bucket
次
had never seen anything like this,
あとあそこ
and
の
it
上
very
に行くやつも
nearly
行って
burst
な
into
い？
tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that
上
everything
になん
would
かあ
be
った？
fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it
あそ
didn't
こに
wish
も
to
行き
do?
たいね。
What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
何をやって何
He
やってない
screamed
か分
into
か
the
んないよ
bucket.
ね。
He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter, his one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
ふわーん。
But here was the
こ
proof.
れで
The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or
オフにし
content.
ます。
Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold
ボス
reality
ル
of
ー
this
ムからエ
power
レベーター
began
に
to
乗る
sink
前
in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power
オ
over
フにしちゃう。よしよしよし。ちょっともう一回ボスルームのとこ行くか。
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness.
めっちゃ見て
Was
く
it
る。
over?
はいよ。
Yes, they had done it.
よし来た。
Stanley and the bucket had
これは
defeated
今
their
回バ
greatest
ケ
and
ツと
darkest enemy,
共に
freed
外脱
themselves
出し
from
て
the tyrannical grip of the evil mind
静
control
かな
machine.
村で
Freedom
過ご
was
す
now
感じかな。
mere moments away. Excitedly,
あバケ
the
ツ出
two
て
of
き
them
た。
began to discuss the kind of life they
いえい
wanted
え
to
バケツ
live
くん行く
once
ぞ。
they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate.
バケツは
Stanley
ローラー
wanted to
スケートを
sneeze in
習いた
every
かった。
country on earth. Both of
くしゃ
them
みを
wanted
し
to
たかっ
begin
た。
watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through
いい
and
じゃ
begin
ん。
watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and to...
あれ
What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped?
なんで
Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed?
外に出る流れじゃん。
Unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave.
この建物、あわ
Even the facility itself
嘘でしょ
recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, and go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No. Stanley can't leave this place, not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms, not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room, but at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself.
Oh.
As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
はあ。というエンド。
All
ねえ
of
ねえ
his
箱のやつ
coworkers
分
were
かった
gone.
かも。
What could it mean?
あの
Stanley
さ、
decided to go to the meeting
バ
room.
ケツ集計
Perhaps he had simply missed.
え、
Stanley's bucket.
唯一の同僚です。
Only co-worker he would ever truly need. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room. But
ボ
Stanley
ック
had
ス多いのっ
felt
て
the
さ、
bucket calling
あ
to
の
him,
倉庫みたい
telling
なところ
him
じゃ
that
ない
the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct?
そんな気がす
Never
る。
mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't
Go
go to
quick.
the meeting room.
Hold on,
Go
hold on.
somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there.
どうすんの
Go to the cargo lift.
いいのかえ、来た。もう。
And there it is. The last
やっ
Stigley
た
Savor this moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of
達
doing
成
it.
しました。
Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for
もう
collecting
6個
them,
集めたよ。
but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done.
もう全部
We're
終
all
わったん
done
だよ
here.
とだけ。
And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
あそっから出ていけそうな気がしちゃわない？出ていかないのか。こっから降りれないのかな。この木絶対すごいよ。どうなってんの？やったバケツはとりあえず、あ、なに倉庫だ、倉庫。カセットテープ？カチャ。
Okay, this is day number 295, tape number No, I've lost track. Nothing feels real
何
anymore.
何
The longer I study this bucket, the less sense
バケツ
anything
研究してんの
makes. The sheer euphoria I feel
うん
every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It doesn't
思い
make
詰めてるね
sense. There's no explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so
今だよ
differently when this bucket
おお
is in my arms.
バケツ同僚
Why
反対派ね
everything feels so.
反対
What
派意
do
見
I
いただき
do
ま
with
した
this treasure? I can monetize it.
Yes
It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket.
いやもうバケツと過ごすの大事よ
This is my golden ticket. But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get me.
え
What's that? Who's there?
何何何何何
Camporata.
ガンブラータガンブラータガンブラータえ黒幕
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's just...
道じゃない
It's those figurines. Those figglers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life?
めっちゃ嬉しかっ
Fill you
た
to the
ああいう
brim
の
with
好
inner
き
richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone?
メ
I
モ
would
リー
love
ゾーンに
nothing more
戻る
than
んだ
to revisit the
オ
figurines
ッケー
just one more time.
また素敵な明るい別芸風なところに行くんですねおいよあれここに行けばいいのかな
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
これ一個ずつ取っていく感じかあちょっと戻ろうかな取らないでスルーしちゃったよいしょよ
Stanley,
いしょ
I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines.
取っていくあれ
Those
ね
figglers.
一個ず
I
つ
haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more
行きましょう
trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
一個ずつ見に行けますもう従わない精神のせいで先に行っちゃったこっちね
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again,
あれ
Stanley.
お6分の 7? バイバーイ。1個ずつ拾っていきましょう。
And here was a second Stanley. I'll be honest, back then I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways. Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini stand? Can you remember?
3つ目？階段の上司がある方だから先にこっちだと思う。トイレが先だよね。そうそう、トイレ行ってからエレベーター乗ったんだもん。よく覚えてた。あ、そうなんですよ。ここ行かないと結局あっち行かないからね。
Oh yes, we found a figly in this pink room. Oh well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened.
何かが起こった。リンゴの部屋で。お初なんですけど。真ん中通ろう。
This was the 5th mini stand, and this one was really something special. It was by the red and blue doors. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion.
動画作りました。はい。はい。いいね。昔風な感じがいいよ。そこね、バケツを持って入れない場所。そこにありましたと。5つ目ね。あんな感じで見つけたんですね。やったと。嬉しかったですね。ここの入った右のところに見つけました。Thank you for watching. いいね、いいよ、いい編集、めっちゃ。めちゃくちゃいいです。懐かしいです。まあまあ、まあどっちでもいいのか。じゃあ青からいっちゃおう。ひねくれてるから。赤行けって言われたのに、青行ったからね。なんかすごいね。
And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here in the warehouse. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a figly and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other.Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like.
こっち行けばいいのかな。おお。はい。わ。
And then there was no more,
闇が見てる
because
風景
we
だこれ。
caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone.
おー、バイバイ。
No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels.
逆方向から。待って。ちょっと待って。スタックしました。スタック嘘でしょ。ちょっともう一度始める。最悪だ。ちょっと急ぎ足ね。
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's
後ろに
just
下がりすぎてスタックしました。
those figlets.
最
I
悪
haven't
じゃん。
stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire
ま
life?
さかのバ
Didn't
グ
it
が
fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story,
任せてっ
but
て。
would you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory
もう
zone?
また2
I
度
would
目
love
の
nothing more
ものを
than
見
to
せてしまうので、
revisit
ちゃっちゃと終わらせましょうね。
just one more time.
もう一度だけじゃない、2度目なんです、これ。ナレーションさん。すいませんね。あそこでまさかのスタックです。後ろに下がってる想定じゃなかったのかな。闇がおかしかった。あれは絶対画面間近で見てるみたいな。
The first
あれだったはず。
Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
もう取ってる判定になってるかな。あ、全部もう取ってる判定になってる。
And here was a second Stanley. I'll be honest, back then I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways.
よし。
Okay, let's do a little quiz.
Sure.
Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini stand? Can you remember? Hey, that's exactly right. It was here in the boss's bathroom. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget your third time doing anything. Let's see, what came next? Oh yes, we found a figly in this pink room. Oh, well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone.
リンゴのピンクね、ピンクのリンゴね。
This was the 5th mini stand, and this one was really something special. It was by the red and blue doors. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion. Enjoy.
2回見てもらいましょう。思い出のね、ナレーションにとっては本当に思い出のあるね、場所だったみたいなので、こんな矢印までつけちゃって、ここにあったよと5個目がありましたと。で、やっぱね、一人称視点大事ですよね。はい。この赤と青のドアのところにありましたと。やったね。はい、OK です。ありがとうございました。8分で作ったのね。さあさあ、ここ行って。
And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here in the warehouse. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a figly and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly that.
いきますか。ああ、やっと戻ってこれた。ここら辺で待ってましょうかね。
And then
はい。
there was no more, because we've caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future.
後ろに下がりすぎ注意なんで、皆さん気をつけてくださいね。
No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels.
はい、行ったと。よかった。 ちゃんと無事開きまして。
Okay, yes. This spot in the warehouse. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going. I want more.
まあどっちでもいいから、じゃあ赤から戻るか。
And here's where I made that video. Don't you
これ
remember
で
the
動
video
画見
we
ま
watched?
したと。ああ、早送りでね。ああ、ありがとうございます。ありがとうございます。
I love that video.
ヤミも意外と好き。あの動画好き。
Still don't remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this one.
そこ思い出せない。
A solid room. These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have muted the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one.
よしよし。これでポン。
This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going. This is it, the very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figurines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this?
お、これは。あ、でも違うな、場所が。
Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then. But time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now. Look how much fun the past is. I want more.
そうね、始めた時はこれだったんだ。
Oh yes, the two doors.
もうこれはね。
Classic memory, this one.
ほんとよ。じゃあ言うこと聞いて左から入って。
And before everything else, there was your office.
最初にね。
Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office?
オフィスより前に
There's
何
something I
か
feel I can remember. I can remember. I can
思い出せる？
remember.
何？
Yes, I'm remembering something now.
思い出した？
I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions.
決断
I
するのや
became
めまし
lazy.
た。
And I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions, he would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction.
Fiction.
But, suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be.
一本指でね。
Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good.
これっきりにする。
I did
なる
enjoy
ほど。
telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
なんか寂しくなっちゃうな。
Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others, wherever they were. Just a matter of time.
時間の問題なのです。
Is Stanley, without the bucket, really Stanley at all? No, no, surely not.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
これどこに行けばいいんだ？もう一応終わりな感じ？これまだやるっぽい？一応終わりなのかな？こっち
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct?
言うこと聞いてみるか。
Never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
はい。
Still
オ
no
フィ
one
ス
was
も
here.
変わってる、元
Stanley
に戻
needed
っ
the
てる
bucket's
と。
warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd coming to a staircase. Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the
上司のね。
boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
カンガルー？
Crushed by the weight of this revelation,
なんかこういうとこ
Stanley may
よく
have
見て
broken
なかった
down
な
into
と
an
思って。
emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark
こん
clouds
な
of
感じだっ
confusion
たんだ
and
ね。
chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket
全
would,
く見てなかった。
and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
気づきませんでした。2845。
But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
これ行けばいいのかな？お、ローディング。あ、間違え
Wait,
た。
Stanley said to the bucket. Can we go back up? When I was pressing those keypad buttons, there was something very
上に
intriguing
戻
about
る
the
ことが
number
できる
3.
ね。
I want to go back so I can try pressing the
あ、
number
数
3
字
again.
の3を押してみ
Bucket
たい。
said nothing.
なんか偶然いい感じになったぞ。3押すの？じゃあ3押すわ。
Here we are, said Stanley. Now I'm going to try out that number 3 button. He took the bucket over to the keypad and began absolutely
What in the
slamming
hell?
on the number 3 over and over and over. Well, he said, the number 3 is such a special button. I'm
So-
having the time of my life. Stanley looked expectantly at the bucket, but the bucket remained silent. This was a shock to Stanley, who had always felt such a connection with the bucket. How was this not as exciting to the bucket as it was to him? Once Stanley had had enough of the number 3, he got back in the elevator.
0003とか？違うのかな？パウしとく？ 無理だね。もう一回戻るか。下行って。
Perhaps the bucket had missed something. Perhaps it had not seen how much joy Stanley got from slamming the number 3 repeatedly.
やらされただけ？もしやこれ。もう一回戻ってみる？続きありそうよね。
No, 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 said Stanley to the bucket. You can't go on yet. Not till you understand how much the number 3 means to me. You and I have been through so much together, and I just want you to see what I see. Feel the happiness I feel. He smiled at the bucket, and the bucket said nothing.
バケツ見ててくれ、闇の勇姿を。3押すから3ね。
Here we go, said Stanley. This time I'll really show you. He ran to the number 3 and began to wail on it like a musician on a beloved instrument, weaving a concerto of truth and passion. He wielded the number 3 like a fine artist would wield a paintbrush. He told stories through the number 3, stories of his dreams and hopes and fears. And the whole time, he looked to his bucket for a reaction of some kind. Anything to let him know that the bucket appreciated what he was doing. The bucket conveyed absolutely nothing at all, only silence. Crushed by a wave of dejection, Stanley returned to the elevator. Stanley and the bucket were so close, they'd always been there for one another. Why suddenly could the bucket not connect with this passion of Stanley's? The question caused Stanley to ruminate the whole way down the elevator. He knew that there must be a way to get through to the bucket, to communicate fully with his dear friend. Surely there was a solution, mustn't there be?
何があるだろう、対策。もう一回戻ってみますか。
Said Stanley. I
何？あははーとスターリー
to
と。
fully express this feeling in my heart. He decided right then and there
記者会見を開くことにしま
press
した。
conference where he would speak to the public on all matters relating to pressing the number 3 over and over. He would elaborate fully on what the number 3 meant to him and why he felt so alive when pressing it. Then the bucket would be able to see his joy through the eyes of others. It would get to see the world react to this discovery of Stanley's. And it would be through the public eye that the bucket would finally understand Stanley's work.
違う場所来た。
For months, he advertised and marketed his press conference, building excitement around it, developing and rehearsing it, until it couldn't be refined a single measure further. When the big day arrived, Stanley was as prepared as he'd ever been for anything in his life.
はい。2ステージ33333。
This was it. One last chance to win the bucket over. One opportunity to share a true connection with a loved one.
よし、行きますか。
There was no one here.
誰もいませんでし
Nobody
た。
had come to the press conference to hear Stanley speak,
ああ、
to
聞き
listen
に
to
来る人い
him
ない。
talk about what it really means to press the number 3 on a keypad over and over. He was unloved,
よし、
uninteresting. He
記
was
者
a
会見を
failure.
します。
And in that moment, Stanley knew that the bucket would never again take him seriously. There would be no connection, no deeper understanding. The bucket merely sat there in his arms, indifferent. And so it began that slowly, over many years, the two of them grew more and more distant. They spoke less and less, neither wishing to state the obvious, that any sense of real respect between them had eroded since that day at the press conference. There would be no more games, no more long conversations about passion and pursuit, only a silence that consumed the space between
でも
friends.
バケツのことを友人と。
And Stanley Having for once in his life discovered the warmth and comfort of true companionship, was cast back into the unremarkable normalcy of loneliness.
お、真っ暗になった。めっちゃ猫ちゃんに見られてる。電話鳴ってます。はいはいはい。
Good morning. Thank you for contacting the Future Happiness Foundation. We are confirming your shipment of 1,327 cardboard boxes to your place of work. Can you verify that this is correct? Excellent. Your order will arrive shortly. Thank you again for contacting the Future Happiness Foundation.
これで終わり？もうないのかな？エンディングっぽい感じだった？あ、
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
As Stanley lifted his bucket,
違う部屋だ。
connection to all buckets everywhere. Stanley
出た。
clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here.
もうおし
Stanley
まいか
needed the
な？
bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
ちょっと見てみよう。とりあえずは多分終わったと思うんだよね。よいしょ。どうしたらいいんだろうな。とりあえず終わりっぽいかな。そんな感じがする。よいしょ。12時も過ぎてるし、猫ちゃんもミルクを飲みたいと思うので、お眠りにつく時間にしますかね。あ、でも待って、なんかあるっぽいな。あ、多分大丈夫か。とりあえず終わりっぽいです。またなんかね、あったら動画とかにしたいと思いますので。はい。ではね、こちらのゲーム一旦締めさせていただきたいと思います。いやー、このゲームやりたかったんだけど、めちゃくちゃ面白かった。いや、もうちょっとね、ナレーションに負けないようにようにしてたっていうか、ちょっとね、従わないルートをやっぱ見たくなっちゃう。なんだろうね、なんか心理的な問題なのかな。なんか見たくなっちゃうよねいろんなところ寄り道してしまいましたが、楽しんでいただけましたでしょうか。アーカイブ見てくれたみんなもありがとう。ちょっと長くなっちゃった。それではね、もう今日頑張れば1週間も半分になります。5月も中旬、あっという間だね。もう暑くなってきたので、みんな体調に気をつけてお過ごしください。それでは皆様、おつやみで終わりにしましょう。今日はもうそのままささっと終わらせていただきます。猫ちゃんのミルクをあげてきます。それでは おやすみなさい。いい夢を。みんなバイバーイ。またね。